Bakker.
Thank you, Tammy Sue Bakker, and welcome to Main Street, Gray Street here.
Yes, here we are.
And we're
Hi
happy
there.
to have everyone here today, and
Yes.
happy to see Pastor David here with me.
Yeah.
And
Pastor David.
my dear, dear friend. And I love him so much, and he just blesses my heart. And the people at Morningside love him.
Yeah.
They love him. Because he is...
So full of wisdom.
He's an associate pastor of the church, but he just ministers to all the people that live here.
Yeah,
and
so full of wisdom.
So this is
and
our home street home.
Yes, yeah, welcome. We love having you with us.
Well, we have some very, very special guests with us today. Donna Howell is the managing editor and writer, researcher for Defender Publishing. She's also the best-selling author of Handmaidens, Conspiracy, Radicals, and Final Fire. So Allie Henderson oversees the research arm of Skywatch TV and Defender Publishing. That is, Tom Horn is the head of all of that.
Yeah.
And she is a credentialed private investigator.
I love
What
that
is
kind of
that?
stuff.
It's a lot of research, honestly. People often mix that up with the idea of being a detective. They're different things, honestly.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But so you're sort of a detective for Jesus, right? Sort of.
I would wear that label.
That's good.
Allie is also a contributing editor, writer to the bestseller Time Bomb and Unscrambling the Millennial Paradox. Their new book, this is the book. It's going to shake the world. It's called Dark Covenant. How the masses are being groomed to embrace the unthinkable while the leaders of organized religion make a deal with the devil.
Wow.
This is the book you must read now.
Yes.
You girls have written a shocking book.
Truly.
I'm almost shaking from the book. No, it is shocking. You have guts,
Thank you.
strength,
Yes, they do.
power, anointing.
Yes. Amen.
So welcome to our program again, Donna Howell and Allie Anderson, two of the beautiful daughters of Tom Horn. I guess we should mention your mother too, right?
Nita.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
Nita.
Nita had something to do with this
Well,
birth.
yeah,
A little bit.
Oh my goodness. But I will say one time we were having lunch here at Morningside. The girls, we were all together, and Nita said, and I said, you know, the girls are amazing, Nita. I'm talking straight to her across the table, and she said they have their father's brain. She said they got it from their father.
I would take that compliment.
And I was like, wow. Because I'm like, they kind of blow my mind. I mean, I'm old enough to be their mom. And I mean,
What's it
if
like
I had
being-
these two
Well, let's
daughters, I'd
ask
be
him that.
so wow.
Let's ask him, what is
I'm
it
so
like
honored.
being Tom Horn's daughter? Tell me that.
Oh.
You know, there are some people that assume that our childhood was like a Bible study all day.
Yeah. Every day. True. Yeah.
And actually, that doesn't describe our childhood at all. We had so much love and so much words of affirmation and balance. And we were raised in such a way that Dad led by example and not by the finger wag. So it was very cool when we decided that we were going to start studying and researching the Bible and society and everything else on our own. It was because that was something that had been set as an example, but had never been expected from us. I mean, he flat out told us our entire upbringing, do whatever you want. I'll support whatever career you want, anything. And then I just couldn't stop nerding out, and so here we are. That's the short version.
We are thankful that you said yes to God, because ultimately God put a call on your life, obviously.
This is, I think the word dynasty is wrong, but you're in a Tom Horn dynasty, and your great network you've built, and the great new studios you're building, and all that you're doing, and we're so proud to have your programs on some of our networks, and we're hoping to add more of your programs on our networks, because I'd like to carry all your programs on our network. because we love them so much. We love you. We do love you.
Well, that is mutual.
When
That's
did you girls
mutual.
first wake up to know that your dad was a genius?
You know, okay, so
This is good. Allie's the firstborn. Let's just tell
I'm
her.
just going to say we're off my notes, but no,
Yeah, that's good.
I'll go out on a limb here and be transparent.
Yeah.
When I was 22, okay, so raised in church, Dad was a pastor. Every day wasn't necessarily a big disciplinary Bible study, but we were always raised with Scripture and you know, taught, you know, God's way and why it was the way it was. And in my early 20s, I just had a really rebellious phase. And I think when I hit the end of my own rope, which doesn't every good testimony start there,
that's right.
that was when I started realizing Mom and Dad, you know, they were right about everything they said. You know, 20-something years of teaching came back, and all of a sudden, I rededicated my life to God, and then I never looked back.
Oh.
But I had to hit the end of all of my own resources, all of my own rebellion, all of my own everything, and then all of a sudden, I think that might have been the moment I went, hey, Dad was onto something, Mom was onto something, so that would be my answer to that question.
That's so
It
good.
was more of a social thing for me. I remember being in school, and I remember, you know, the teen years in the 90s, and how every single one had to be this, you know, broken family testimony where they hated their mom or dad or, you know, whatever. And I just remember being at home and thinking about my dad on the radio the last night that he didn't know I was tuning into and listening to. And the entire time thinking to myself, I could never feel that way about these people, ever. My mom was the greatest mentor. And you know, Lori, if she sat down and said they have their daddy's brain, we have our mother's brain, too. My mom was a genius. Do not, and nobody ever, you're not allowed to sell Nita short.
No. Yeah.
Ridiculously intelligent.
Wow.
Tom Horner is truly one of the great leaders of our day.
Truly.
And he's brilliant. And he's built a brilliant publishing company. And we use a lot of his books on our shows and all. And we just love your family. We love what you're doing.
Your whole family.
The great farm for children, the horses. What do you call that?
Whispering Ponies Ranch?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're actually running the camps right now at home as we speak.
That's your mom's baby. She oversees
Say that again. What is the name of it?
It's Whispering Ponies Ranch, and they run therapeutic camping ministry back to back during this time of year. A lot of children who are wards of the state and that sort of thing. Yeah, they bring them in and they minister to them. And
There's the little horses. How many of those do you have? Do you know?
well, I haven't asked for a while, but the last time I asked, it was up near 40.
Yeah.
But that was, I mean, that was a conversation I had prior to COVID, and I think because of how COVID shut the camps down, they might have scaled back a little, but I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you? What is the purpose of the camp, and why do you use horses and all to help children of what kind?
Well, first of all, a lot of these kids are foster kids. And when they arrive in their foster home, they are coming from some kind of an emergency situation, and they have been traumatized in a variety of ways. Some of them have been trafficked. And so they have learned from a very young age, authority figures cannot be trusted. Adults cannot be trusted. People who are parental figures can't always be trusted, and they become very guarded. But an animal has no ulterior motive for loving you. An animal simply has a pure love. And when they can break down that wall and begin to interact and feel that love, then they can begin to, again, trust that love can also come from other sources once they've opened up to that willingness to allow themselves to be loved. So the ponies, they really serve a very important purpose, and they really are performing their own kind of ministry, you know, every day on the ranch, teaching these children something alive loves you for no other reason than the fact that you and it are breathing. And pretty soon that can transfer to another human being. Eventually the goal is they can realize God loves them. So it's a huge role that those ponies play.
Oh, that is. It's awesome. Beautiful. Pray for that.
Would you say that's your mother's ministry? More than your dad's?
Probably. I mean, he supports everything, and he's in it with her all the way. But if you were going to say who manages which arm of this whole, you know, conglomeration, it would be she manages the whispering side, and he manages the Defender Skywatch side.
I would love to hold one of those horses.
Come over.
We need some therapy.
Yeah, come on in.
We're on our way. We're coming over for some therapy. I'm not kidding.
David, you and I could do some therapy, right? I would love to hug one of those horses. I mean, that little teeny girl leading that horse wasn't that cute?
Precious.
Yeah, that was so cute. And I have therapy dogs.
They're not trained therapy dogs, people. They're just our dogs.
No.
And they're wonderful. They are a blessing from the Lord for us.
But all through my whole year of being in bed, and so the dogs will lay by me, and I'll pet them. And
Snowball and Lucky, if you want to know their names. I'm sure they'll put a picture of
I
them.
heard on TV the other day that petting an animal can reduce blood pressure.
Yes.
Did you know that? The horses are just, I just can't get over it. Maybe we could do a show at the ranch one day.
Yes, they would love that. Would be great.
You girls could help now and
That would be neat. Absolutely.
show us some horses and
How sweet.
interview your
that
mom.
would be very cool. We could definitely probably talk about that for
Because
sure.
I'd like to get deeper into what makes that thing tick.
We're
You
going
know
to
what?
talk. We're going to need to have, talk.
Look
with
at that
you,
little
Nita.
girl. Looks like one of my grandkids.
Wow.
God is good like that. Isn't that amazing? That unconditional love it is, you know, with an animal. It's just amazing, isn't it? If it's just your dog at home, everybody, that they walk, it's like you leave the room for 5 minutes, you come back, and it's like they are so excited to see you again. And you're like, I just left you. Or can you leave me alone for a minute? Because they follow me everywhere all throughout the house.
Well, this book that we're going to talk about today, if you don't order a book this month, you better get this one because this is the #1 shock book of the month. This book will shock you. It shocked me. I'm still in shock over it. And so I can't wait to interview you girls about it. And I hope everybody will order this book, Dark Covenant, How the Masses Are Being Groomed to Embrace the Unthinkable, while the leaders of organized religion make a deal with the devil.
Wow.
That's this book. And boy, it's happening. It's scary. It's so happening. And we've been talking lately about Skywatch TV channel getting removed or deplatformed from the YouTube channel. I hate to bring up such a negative thing, but you guys...
Yeah, but it's what we're living in. Where it's exactly what we're talking about.
And your dad's on our
about
board of
living.
directors, and we had a board meeting this week, and he
Yes.
brought it up at the board meeting, or we asked him to, and he talked about it. Tell us about what that Skywatch has done to keep the programs on the air for their viewers. Your dad told me that something like, is it a 250,000, 750,000 viewers or something you had on
Subscribers.
on YouTube that...
He
I'm
knew
not
the
sure.
he knew the exact.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I don't know the exact number, but basically what happened is Silent Cries, our documentary. It's an expose on human trafficking and pedophilia. And what happened was Josh Peck posted a video called Revisiting Silent Cry, and it was, you know, just a shorter revisitation of what he's discussing in that documentary. Well, that was reported as cyberbullying, harmful, and labeled as malicious harassment, and it was taken down. The funny thing about it is that YouTube has a 3 strikes and you're out policy. We had no strikes.
Wow.
And yet the entire account was removed, and afterward they came in and went, ding, you got your first strike. So apparently they decided after the fact to go ahead and give us a strike. But if you followed us on YouTube and you are now looking for a new platform, which is available right now, we do have the personal Skywatch app. We have rumble.com/SkywatchTV. We have our website, skywatchtv.com, our podcast, Roku and Apple TV apps and channels. And also you can go to our website and go to the drop-down list which says Watch Skywatch TV. And then there's an icon that says where to watch us, and that will tell you more information about where you can find us. And then, of course, I'm sure we'll be talking to you guys
And
also
you're
more
on
about
our
that.
network, too.
Yes.
Some of your programs are on our network. In fact, I've just been talking to people about putting all your programs on our network because they're such good programs.
They're amazing.
Wow,
Such
that's
top
very
of the
very
line.
creative.
programs.
The
Oh, we
best.
appreciate you guys and all that you do. You've been such
But
a
here's
huge...
the thing I want people to understand. They took them off from, and they had like, I don't know, 750,000 viewers or something like that. There are people that supported them on YouTube. And it was just bam.
That's right.
Bam.
Over
I
one
mean,
video.
bam. Taken off. Not brought back, just taken off.
And the entire channel, not one video that they
Right.
found harmful on
Their
some
whole
level.
network.
The whole channel, yeah.
And essentially, at the end of the day, it was because of defense of a child, a trafficked child.
Wow.
Our documentary, if you've seen Silent Cry, you
Yes.
know
Yes. I saw it.
that the entire documentary is an expose of human trafficking, how that can happen, and how that hurts a child, and the trends of the everyday more accepted pedophilia. So that's what got us to platform.
Okay,
We were
let's
in
get down to
defending
business.
of a
Let's
child.
just get down to
Amazing.
business.
Amazing.
What is human trafficking? What does it mean?
Well, human
What you were taking off, you had a documentary about it within one of your programming, right? And so because of that, they decided to cancel your whole network forever. Is what
with no
your father
explanation.
told me.
Have ignored all of our requests for more information or an appeal or anything like that. Just, we're done. Shut it down.
Why do they want to protect it?
The film was about human trafficking. It's an expose about basically human trafficking, for anybody who doesn't know, is basically any time a person is sexually exploited.
Yes.
And often these people are trafficked, multiple times a day, up to, 15 times a day. And some of these are young women and young men. Some of them are very young children. I mean, this is it's a very sick industry. And part of what was
That's right.
exposed in our documentary is how it's really happening right under our noses. We like to think it's somewhere else.
Exactly.
It's
Another
happening.
country. It's
Exactly. In our backyard,
Yeah.
it's happening.
Yeah.
You know,
And-
you're so powerful because I had Josh Peck on my program talking about this film. What shocked me the most is that when he made that statement, this is happening in our backyard. This is something that in America we don't want to face, we don't want to deal with.
What are the youngest children that are sex trafficking?
As young as 18 months is
Yeah.
what I've heard.
Yes.
And that I can't. I don't understand why, in defense of a person whose appetite is that,
Yeah.
our channel got removed.
Exactly.
I mean, who are we defending here? This is messed up.
Their network was taken off the air because they were trying to help these kids be saved from this horrible thing. Is that right?
Yes, and this is the state that the world is in. This
That's
is
it,
why we
Donna.
wrote Dark Covenant,
Yes.
because that is a societal issue. YouTube is not a Christian network.
No.
It's not, but every single day, the voice of Christianity, preaching against sin, recognizing what sin is,
Yeah.
being able to say, I won't tolerate this because my God will not allow me to tolerate this, is becoming hate speech. Christianity is becoming synonymous with hate speech. And when the voice of hate is being seen so loud, our voice of love needs to be that much louder.
Yes.
But we need to know how to balance understanding when to tolerate the sin. So you have a neighbor with tattoos and he smokes. This is a moment where you need to just set that aside and love forever.
Yeah, that's
love.
good. That's good.
But when you're
That's
talking
good.
about the safety of a child,
Yes.
we're talking about the things that we wrote about in Dark Covenant, the societal shift. We are, Allie, you were talking at one point early on in the book about this moment where we've shifted towards a new day that is beyond the point of no return.
Yeah.
It's true.
That's right.
We are there.
It's true.
We are there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
we
This
are.
is the point
We're
of
there.
no return.
Yes.
And it's hellish. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of what this story just happened to be out right now. And we're just talking about this particular part of it because of them taking you off the network. This is what they do. This is the kind of country we're going to have totally. Is it anti-God, anti-Christ, anti-good? People that say bad is good and good is bad. They're trying to protect the pedophile, right?
The pedophilia.
Well, more than just the pedophile. This has happened. This is escalating. And actually, as much as there will be this kind of a dichotomy where two things are happening here. On one hand, the church will be silenced and crushed. Our voice will become less popular. We'll get to the point that we offend everybody if we even so much as recognize what sin is. That's the remnant. But the other church, so we're getting ready to meet this split here. We're looking at a day where the church topside, I'm talking about the legal church that really impresses personalities like the Antichrist and those who, you know, pave the way for him. The church is going to be pseudo-Christian. In other words, we're going to keep the fluffy, unoffensive sides of the gospel while we completely destroy anything that was ever. We're getting to the point now where churches will do exactly what was said in the 1st and 2nd Timothy, where we are becoming the church of spot and wrinkle, the church of the tickling of the itching ears. We'll preach anything so long as we don't offend anybody, and those are the churches that are going to grow. Now, the churches that will continue to preach, this is a sin, don't do that, that's going to be seen as hate speech, those are going to dwindle. And listen to me, if you're a preacher out there and your church is getting smaller because you do not tolerate this nonsense, understand that when real, serious, hurtful, horrible, societal crazy hits the fan, and we're there, nobody will be able to lock your doors. Nobody will be able to lock your doors. The government will try. You might even have to hide what you're doing, but it is going to be, that's going to be the message that survives.
Yeah, that's it. Wow. You just put it.
I announced to my board of directors yesterday, I think it was.
Yeah.
Was it yesterday? Seems like a week ago. But I announced to my board that this year, you're going to see the Bible more and more be declared hate speech.
That's right.
This is, it's so very serious. You both are here today to talk about your new book, Dark Covenant. This book is shocking.
It is.
How did this book come to be over a breakfast of all things?
The two of you having breakfast, right?
Yeah, the two of us. Well, okay, so because we share an office, sometimes we have these moments where she will say to me, hey, I'm stuck, I've got writer's block, I'm working on this book and I'm stuck. And sometimes I'll do the same with her. Well, we had been working on 2 different books, and I had on my own felt compelled to write a book about how society was being groomed to embrace the unthinkable. Secular, Christian, some other religion, people in general, the crowd of people who live everywhere, are being groomed to embrace increased levels of depravity because there's an end game agenda to the direction that we're going. And nobody, I'll back up and say that the beast system will not be accepted on the secular level unless they are groomed as well. The beast system is not all about the church's failure only. The secular crowd is filled with people who have a good moral compass and a good education. They're not going to stand by and watch this kind of stuff take place. Groom the entire globe of people. And so I was writing on this. She, on the other hand, had a book that had its own directive that was about the religious side of all this. The church is making a deal with the devil. The institution is becoming like a cult. How does all this come together? Well, she was writing that side. So she called me, she said, I'm at writer's block. And I said, yeah, me too. Let's go to breakfast, because sometimes getting out of the office, shake it up, get some coffee, just get in a different setting. And she tells me, and as a reader/listener, I'll say, I think what I want to know next is this. Does that help? And she'll do the same for me. And I'm listening to her talk, and she's listening to me talk. And we're both saying, I think you're writing the other side of my book.
Wow.
Because I know what to say I know what I want to say to the secular, just the world in general. She knew what she wanted to say to the church, but how do you bring these together and merge them to a message that's holistic and really means this is what's happening worldwide to everybody, not just secular, not just the church. So we took it home and we kind of put it all together and rebranded it and made an outline, and then we emailed Tom and we said, hey, we've got a book idea, we need to meet right away. And so we went to his office, or actually no, we met somewhere else, but anyway, and he starts listening, and we didn't tell him we want to put our books together. We just said, here's our book idea. This is, and then this, and now this, and we kind of lined it out in the outline. And right away, he's going, I'm in. And we're like, okay, so now what we have to say, we have a confession to make. This is the same 2 books we've been working on, but we want to put them together because we really think they're one. And that was the end of that. But that happened over breakfast.
And of course, all of his support came with a warning. He's like, you realize you are going to put your neck out on the chopping block.
Yes.
And it's like, nobody else is saying it. And Lord, here am I, send Aaron, but if at the end of the day Aaron doesn't work out, I guess I will do this thing that you're asking me to do. It is very scary. Some of the things that we point out about the church, see, there's the institutionalized church, and then there's, you know, the remnant, which we all believe and know the remnant. Your audience is made of the remnant. But then there's this thing that's happening in the middle, and I don't think very many people are aware of it, where there's a shift coming where there is going to split. The remnant cannot cohabitate with what is becoming the apostate superchurch of the Antichrist system. See, we're building the system before we have the man of sin to fill the throne. Why? How else would we be able to do that? Because when you actually consider what we're looking at here, eschatologically speaking and end times speaking, the Antichrist is not going to sit there and go, okay, line up for the mark of the beast, right here, single file line.
That's right.
That's not going to fool anyone. The only way to fool it is if the system is kind of in place and we have a major chaos before we need our answer man.
Exactly. And then he will rise and take his platform and that we've already prepared for him.
And the answer man can't... It says in Revelation that he rides the beast before he... that he rides before he devours. This is a moment where he is making a friendship with the church, because the church itself, and I'm not just talking about Christianity, although Christianity is my heart, so that's what I mostly address in the book. I don't go very much into how other world religions will be a part of this, except for syncretization, they will be. And then now, look, if you look at what's happening with, if I may, really quickly, pluralization, the word, as it exists and as it works, pluralistic society represents a day where you can have a Christian living next to a Jew, living next to a Buddhist, living next to and everybody is allowed to worship freely and be private in their own and not have to answer to each other or be coerced in any way that they shouldn't have to. When pluralism and pluralistic society works as it applies to religious freedom, that's a wonderful thing. What's happening is that you have religious leaders, we've identified a few of them in the book, you have religious leaders that on one hand are saying, we want a pluralistic, healthy, religiously free society. But their agenda, their programming, their grooming, their conditioning is a sleight of hand, known in the world of magic as a prestidigitation. I'm making you look at this hand over here while this hand just popped out the rabbit. You don't know where it came from. It's called prestidigitation, and it means they're representing pluralism while they slip you syncretism. Syncretism is a blending of two religions together, meaning that the ultimate goal is to say God accepts the worship of all religions. Christianity is the same as Judaism, is the same as Buddhism, is the same as Hinduism, is the same as, stop me here. It goes on and on and on. And the idea that these things can blend, at least as far as Judaism and Christianity, and we have so many references early on in the book that says this is biblically prohibited, not happening. God cannot, will not accept the worship of all world religions. That's syncretism. That is a different goal than pluralism. Unfortunately, we have one being represented while the other one's being slipped into the
when we arrive at this one world church that is made up of all religions combined into one, what we have is a church that may still assert that they have left a platform for Jesus, but he will not be in the building at that time.
And politics will be right in the middle of it, right?
Sure.
Each of you have had a dream that impacted your worldview and particularly inspired this book.
The book actually starts with the dreams that we had. Hers took place in the 90s. Mine took place as we were writing the book. And it scared me so bad that I went to the core board people of Skywatch and said, guys, I'm shaking in my boots. I don't know what this means. And it's really long, but I'll give you the short version. I had a dream that there were 6 flies that were hovering and zooming around like orbs of light. And they landed on a bed. And when they landed and their light went out, I was able to see that they were flies. And then a second later, they turned into angels. Now, the angels did many things. It's all described in the book. But the quick version is that they separated us and told us that they each had a message for us. There were 3 Christians in my dream: me, my mother, and a friend named David. Now, my mother is led by the heart and by the spirit first. And then she follows the Lord with her mind. Whereas I follow the Lord with my mind first. And because I'm in study all the time, Bible study.
These are researchers.
And then, and then of course, you know, the Spirit and so the idea that we follow the Lord with our heart, soul, and mind, it's there. It's just different order. It represents two very different kinds of Christians that both still get there and recognize, has a discernment to be able to recognize danger or deceit. And then David, whose name has obviously been changed, is a mutual friend of our family who will buy anything he hears. He doesn't recognize what Scripture is when it's being twisted. He's the kind of a person...
means well.
He means well. He's such a beautiful person, but he's the kind of person that when there becomes a group of Christian worshipers that are starting to edge more toward the cult side, I don't think he would recognize it.
Right.
Because he doesn't recognize the difference between a counterfeit gospel and the true gospel. So these flies landed on this bed. David was being treated in a hospital. These flies landed. A lot of other things happened, but by the end of the dream, I woke up and I was so terrified because I knew I came to the point where I recognized these angels were not what the Bible described angels to be. And I went and met with Allie, and I said, I don't know what to make of this. And at the end of the big presentation of what my dream was, we realized, wait a second, they were flies for a second. So we looked up flies, and I'm looking every single fly I can find, everything, and we're not seeing a picture of what I had seen in my dream, but I described them to her. Blonde, silvery, almost mother pearl. I mean, I had it. They almost look like they've got feathers on them. They're so beautiful. And I described them to her, and then we got to thinking, wait a second. In the biblical line of names, we run across Lord of the Flies, which is one of the names of Beelzebub, Satan. And I looked that up on my Bible Logos software and made a few interesting connections that it's not just Lord of the Flies, but it's Lord of a specific fly that swarms the Palestinian regions of the world every summer. And these are called drain flies, and they're nasty. They've got very powerful jaws. They can bite through hair and drain fungus. They're disgusting. This was the fly from my dream.
Because flies are horrible. So I'm trying to figure out how they turned into angels, because
and that was
flies
precisely
are
the point, right?
I mean, the flies are just nasty, nasty things.
Well,
in fact, I know in the middle of, sometimes in a great sermon, you know, flies will come and land on your head while you're preaching or something. They're just evil. And now they put the drain fly on the screen. I don't know, my people do research so fast. And that is an ugly fly.
And so Joe, I went, and when I said, hey guys, what does this mean? Joe says, and Joe, if you know Joe, and you guys kind of do.
We kind of do.
You know that he is not the I prophesy guy.
No.
He never is. And he goes, I know exactly, so fast. He goes, I know exactly what your dreams mean. There's three kinds of Christians. You and Nita represent those who will follow either by heart first or by mind first, but you're going to discern. And there's that third Christian that is exactly what your book is talking about. And I went, oh, there's our opener.
Yeah. It is what your book is talking about. And we have to know that, well, go ahead.
So you made this discovery about the flies in your dream and the grossness of it all. Is there anything else you want to add to that? Because that scares me. Because these flies, I know what flies are. I've studied enough of the Bible. The devil is the Lord of the flies. And flies are nasty. They'll land on cow manure and then land on your picnic.
Well, one
Go
thing,
ahead.
I'll add that she's truncating the dream a lot. In the dream, she became suspicious, and she actually did the test of the spirits, and that was when she realized these are pretending to be angels, but they are not actually angels. And that's kind of an important thing to understand about the dream.
Right. And you wouldn't
we
know,
gotta be concerned in these last days about deception and knowing truth. That's why you have to study, study, study. That's why I beg you to read, to study the Word. And that's why we bring you some of the great, great writers and people, prophets. And I want you to read their books. I want you to study to show yourself approved, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. You mentioned that a little bit. Do you want to add any more?
No, just that being able to discern that these angels were not real came from the test of the spirits, but you don't know the test of the spirits. You don't know the significance of it. You don't know the fullness of that test unless you have been in the Word.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And did you know
That's
only
true.
13%, I got a whole lot more where this came from. I won't talk forever.
Oh, it's so good, Donna,
13%.
though. We love you talking. We love us old people are learning from you. This is amazing.
Only 13, oh, thank you.
Amazing. They've done the research for us.
Only 13% of Christians
Professing
in the West,
Christians.
professing Christians in the West, only 13% read their Bibles.
Wow.
13%.
Wow.
That means
Okay,
that the
is that
remaining
shocking?
80-something% are relying on their pastor to interpret it for them every Sunday morning. Now, what does a cult do?
Wow. Wow.
I need to shut up. What does a cult do?
What does a
No, you have to
cult?
answer that question.
Wait, Donna. Okay,
I'll tell
Donna.
you.
So what does a cult do?
A cult leader, okay, they do
Yes.
3 things. The first thing they do is establish the Bible as the ultimate authority. Then they twist the scripture to fit their programming and their
Yeah.
agenda. The
Yep.
very next thing that they do is to exploit their followers.
Wow.
So, if you're attending a church, and I'm not saying that this applies to every church in the West, I'm just saying it's increasingly becoming the churches in the West, that if you're attending a church and you're relying on your pastor to tell you what the Word says, he is going to get it wrong sometimes, even if he means well.
Right.
And if he doesn't mean well, he's going to get it wrong every time, and you are going to be exploited as a result.
Wow.
That's why
This
I
is why
beg
the
you to
church is becoming
study,
a cult.
study, to learn. And that's what this program is about. We bring you every day experts. We bring you the prophets. We bring you the people who have something to say that are studying. And so we bring it for you to study. And then we encourage you to get the books and to read the books. So I'm hoping you'll get this book. This is the most powerful book that I have read this year. And it's a bit scary. And
But it's what's going on.
Dark
and
Covenant.
It's a wake-up call for all of us. And I just want to say, you know, right at the top here, to both of you, to Allie and to Donna, thank you for saying yes to God on this,
Yes,
because
amen.
this
Thank you.
was an assignment from God
Wow.
wow.
for these
Thank you.
2 young women
Yes, it was.
to put down with pen and paper.
We're
put
gonna-
down paper.
We're going to have them back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're almost out of this first hour already, and we haven't gotten
so
into the
good.
book yet.
Wow.
And I want you to order the book. Get it right now. Be one of the first ones to have it. This is their brand new book, Dark Covenant. And you can get it for a gift of $25, and that includes shipping and handling, right, Nana?
Yes, that's right. We also have made available the 3, which is the Friends and Family offer, 3 of the Dark Covenant books for a donation of $55. And I really believe this is a must-have. This is a page turner, but ultimately, and I told the ladies right before, I said, your research, the research, the studying from the Word that they have done in this book, I could not put this down. This is, every home should have this book. Every parent, every teacher, any person who is literally, and we all have influence in our life, but we have to understand what's at hand right now. We have to educate ourselves. So I have put together, Dad, for this book, I've put together the Baker's Dozen, which is 13 of the Dark Covenant. That's for a donation of $125 to the ministry. That includes shipping and handling. And we only do Baker's Dozens when we believe and know that our partners have to get this message out. And so call us right now at 1-888-988-1588. You can also go to the website, jimbakkershow.com, to place your order.
Order it, read it, put it in your library, give it to your
Yes.
teenagers. They need to know the truth.
It's shocking.
And if we're not careful, we're going to believe lies. This is what the Bible warns us, that will be lies in the last days.
Yes.
And we need to know the word of living God. You say that society is being groomed to embrace the unthinkable. What do you mean by this?
Well, what I mean is society is being reshaped right now. The worldview of people generally across the board is being groomed to accept and tolerate heightened levels of depravity. We've kind of touched on it earlier this episode, you know, when we're talking about, you know, pedophilia. The fact that that our entertainment and our media, 90% of everything that you see is coming from 6 corporate voices.
Wow.
Well, and when you consider that 6 corporate voices are coordinating 90% of the media, and this is including newscasting, this is including sportscasting, this is including streaming services, TV series, movies, comic books, printed magazines, all of this. So when you see something come up in one place as a headline, and then it comes up over here as entertainment, and it comes up, there's a coordinated effort to condition society as a whole to want or believe in or, advocate for whatever that is. And, if you look really quickly, there are old movies that would not even dare to utter one profane word. Fast forward several decades, and we have TV series right now, and I have one particularly in mind, but I won't name it. But it's a actual series that looks like a comic book superhero show, and I kid you not, it has full-on pornography happening in the scenes. And this is not just me, Allie, Henson, conservative Christian, saying that's too much for me. There's an author from Cosmopolitan magazine who said that this show had scenes that were so jacked up it seared the inside of her eyelids forever with things she could never unsee. This is Cosmopolitan.
Very liberal
So
magazine.
I'm talking about increased levels of depravity which are being accepted across the board because our society is being conditioned. And by the way, here's a scary thought. The younger a child is, the easier they are to condition.
Sure.
So recondition adults, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But get them young and raise them. All of a sudden, from one generation to the next, you have vastly changed the trajectory of the worldview, and things that these people said, well, that's unspeakable, it's unthinkable, society will never embrace that. This generation's going, yeah, we need to advocate for that. This is a civil rights issue. And all these things, it can really get out of control, and it is getting out of control. Some things that are being floated right now, besides pedophilia as an orientation, cannibalism, euthanasia. Let's see, I've got more written down here.
You write about it. It's in here. It's in this book.
Yeah, no, it really is.
It really is.
It is.
Yes.
It is. And so on one hand, we make it entertainment. We make these funny shows where cannibalism is funny. And then on the other hand, we have this company called Bite Labs, which is talking about taking celebrities' cells and lab-growing meat out of their cell samples in a lab, blending it with fruits, vegetables, making it into a sausage, and then selling that so that people can order sausage that's flavored like their favorite celebrity. But when you make cannibalism light, oh, this is funny, this is cute, ah ha ha, then the idea of a celebrity sausage, these younger people don't think, hold on, this is unthinkable. They go, oh, it's kind of like that one show I watched. That's fun, let's try it. Doesn't even cross their mind, this is cannibalism.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And this is the kind of stuff that we're on the edge. And if this Bite Labs thing is a joke, they have pushed it for 7 years without saying so. They have for 7 years stood behind this as a serious dialogue. So if they get, the legal clearance and the allowance to actually do the things they're talking about, and the technology's old school, they already can do that.
Yeah.
So it's really just a matter of getting to the point where the public interest has been generated and the legal hoops are arranged. This could happen. This is only one way that we're on the cusp of crossing into a point of no return, and it's just crazy that we're even having this conversation, honestly. So the stuff that I put in the book, she wrote a lot to the church and to religion. The things that I really focused on, I would really hope to say, if you don't agree with us, about the Bible, if you're not in church, if you are not a born-again Christian, please read this book anyway. If you have children, if you have grandchildren, if there's one person in your life that you care about where the world is in 10 or 20 years for their sake, please read this book. We also talk about manipulation tactics and how they work in interpersonal relationships, how they play out large scale. Knowledge is power. You need to know this stuff to navigate your own relationships, to navigate your to navigate what's happening in society around you. Seeing what's wrong and advocating against it becomes powerful, even if you personally don't agree with my biblical theology. So I would just say that.
That's so good, Allie.
Wow.
Because there's that old adage that, what one generation allows in moderation, the next allows in excess.
Wow.
And that's going to continue to be the thing that we go toward for. And it will continue over and over and over again until we get to the book of Revelation and what's being described there. And as you said behind the scenes earlier, we're there. We're there. We're at the very beginning of a lot of this. It's scary.
Yes, we are. It is
Donna,
scary
you said the modern Western church institution has become a cult. You actually, I think, mentioned that once. And how is the modern church split into two groups in this same thing? Let's talk about this.
And I went there. I realized I went there. I had to. I felt that the Lord was specifically saying, use the word cult, and then he showed me how. So if you look at the word cult, actually, as it's defined, it's a system of religious beliefs and ritual, or a religion regarded as unorthodox or spurious. So if the church I go to I like, but you see it as a cult, that's why the definition of the word is very hinky and hard to define. But etymologically speaking, if you look at the origin of that word, it relates to when a group of adherents of a certain religion. So in the case of Christianity, go back all the way to ancient Israel, they relied on Yahweh for the rain, the harvest, all of these things. They celebrated this thing together. A person or group that walked away from that and specifically turned their back on the doctrinal tenets of their own faith, that was a person that represented a cult or a cult leader. That is the very, very origin. Now, listen to the listen to the definition of the word apostasy. A public denial of a previously held religious belief and a distancing from the community that holds to it.
Oh.
Apostasy and cult is the same word.
Wow.
The only thing that differentiates it is because our modern society wants to say, oh, I don't know, my church isn't a cult. I mean, we worship this weird effigy in the front, but it's cool. I mean, it's the God Svatovid. He does these neat things. There was a church in Binghamton. I've picked on them a lot since this. Sorry, Binghamton. They actually booted the communion table out of the way and set up a light display of the god Svatovid, the god of the four cardinal directions, and also the god of war and divination. We're talking about like cartomancy, fortune telling. This is an affront in every way. But this is a Christian Presbyterian church.
Wow.
So when you look at and why did they do it? So you ask, were they just like worshiping this god at random? No, they had a Luma Light Festival and they wanted to reach the culture. You see what's happening?
Yes.
And the word cult is rooted from the ideas of culture, cultivate.
Yeah.
When you look at what is actually happening, we are facing a split. So to get back to your question, the split is going to go like this. We're going to have the cult over here,
Okay.
and it's going to be the cult of Western Christianity. This is the church that will survive and thrive topside and legally under the beast system. So when the man of sin shows himself, that's going to be the Christian church that's thriving on the outside.
Wow.
And a lot of Christians in those days, Christians, air quotes, are going to come forward and say, oh, the book of Revelation was nonsense. We don't have to go underground and hide. We can be proud of our Christianity, which is also, by the way, at that time going to be syncretized with every other world religion. Then there's going to be the remnant. A lot of people are afraid of this. The remnant's going to have to go underground. We'll be persecuted. But listen to me at home. This is a cleansing. Don't be afraid of it. God will never leave the remnant.
Amen.
Ever.
Amen.
Wow.
Good.
We should not fear.
Right on.
That's right. Amen.
We as the true body
Yes,
of Christ.
right.
Because the
Amen.
word body has gotten, the true body of Christ. Listen to me,
Yeah.
the true body of
This
Christ
is scary
wins in the
stuff,
end.
by the way.
Yes.
But we win in the end.
Yeah,
and
right.
so we
Exactly.
have to
But we
remain
need to
strong.
know.
And we shouldn't be afraid of the moment that the church splits into two and one of them is the harlot,
Yep.
described in Revelation
That's right.
as being in cahoots with the beast until he gets what he needs out of her and devours her.
That's right.
And the other one that remains into the very end.
But we see the deception.
Wow.
Exactly what you're saying is already developing. So what does it mean by the leaderless cult?
In order for the grand deception of what is being described in Revelation, like I said earlier, the beast is not going to sit there and say, line up over here for your mark. It has to be a system that is by the evil powers that exist from every different direction in secular society as well as religiosity, this cult Christianity that is building itself right now. There is going to be a moment where, what's it called? Order ab chaos. It's Latin for order out of chaos.
Okay.
And what that describes, in fact, that's a tenet of the 33rd degree Freemasons, but what that describes is a moment in time when the world gets so chaotic that we are vulnerable. And we say, we need an answer man. And the man of sin is going to fix every single fathomable problem. He's going to come in and fix, I've got a list here, world hunger, global strife, disease, racial inequality, class inequality, countless other philanthropic and humanitarian efforts that a religiously, socially, and politically fragmented world has never been able to solve. When that guy stands up and says, I got the answer, that's going to be the day. That's the day that we're looking at. Well, so the question, the leaderless cult, that is what we are forming by being the church of spot and wrinkle, the church of apathy, the church that goes, oh, I'm a Christian, that means I go to church on Sunday morning, la, 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 la. That is the church of apathy. We need to get our nose in the book and keep it there, because if we don't, we're not going to discern anything.
That's right.
So the leaderless cult is what we are building now. And so when the chaos, the order out of chaos happens and the man of sin rises to take over that church, that's the leaderless cult will become the one that is fathered by the Antichrist.
Wow.
And my heart hurts
so
for
powerful.
these people that are in the mix that they mean well, and they're going to church and they're listening to the devotionals that are being given. And you know, they are not intentionally building a leaderless cult for the beast to step in and take over. They are misled, but there's a very simple remedy for this. Like she said, get in your word, study, pray, talk to God yourself every single day. Don't just go to church on Sunday and listen to the sermon and then think that's all you need. Your spiritual feeding is on you. It is not your pastor's job to spiritually feed you. It's helpful, and I'm glad that you have a body of Christ to go to if you do, and if you don't, it's really beneficial and you should find one. But the bottom line is, you are the one that has to get yourself close to God. Nobody else buys you that ticket. And so you've got to get in your word and stay in your word and pray for discernment and pray for God to reveal his word to you and his meaning and the prophecy and all of that. There's a very simple remedy for a lot of this, and that is that believers get back in their word and learn it for themselves.
And you know what?
Wait, we're out of time.
Oh, gosh. Oh,
You'll be back tomorrow, though. And we're going to jump right in tomorrow. No news or anything. Just start with your book, because we got a lot more to ask you. And this is so important. Listen to me. I hope you get the book. We love it. And
Dark Covenant, how the masses, this is the subtitle, how the masses, not the minority, the masses are being groomed to embrace the unthinkable while the leaders of organized religion make a deal with the devil.
you need to order the book and read it. It's so powerful, so in-depth. Maricella's been reading it, and she just said it's an amazing book,
Absolutely.
too.
And
Lori's
we've just skimmed the top of this now. We've not even gone into depth of what they write in this book. So order yours right now. You can receive one for a donation of $25 to the ministry. We have the Friends and Family offer, which is 3 of the Dark Covenant books for a donation of $55. And better yet, the Baker's Dozen, 13 Dark Covenant books for a donation of $125 to the ministry. But I just truly look at this, I'm like, this is priceless, ladies. What you have done, what you are sharing with the church, it is relevant, but it's where we are right now.
And where we're headed.
You know, there's so much being done around you, and you keep saying, I don't get this.
That's right, yes.
You've got to stop compromising what you believe by letting them get by with this in your mind, at least. You understand? What about when the new president took over and the first thing he does is he dumps out the Keystone pipeline, right? Kills the income of thousands and thousands of people, millions of dollars of income. And plus, now we will become, once again, not the #1 supplier of gas and oil to the world. We got to, how can you have leaders that underline and undermine your country? This is what's happening. And this is what's going to happen in the church. The church is turning away from even common sense, from the Bible. The Bible is the foundation. So we must know what the Bible says. And you two have written a very in-depth book, and I'm hoping everybody will order it. We're putting out our SOS this month, asking everyone to use the checks.
Yes.
Because we can't use debit cards anymore.
Yes.
For a
right
while.
now.
We're working on getting them back again. But we fight a warfare, people.
Yes.
We must have God's anointing to stay alive.
Yes, amen.
And we need God's people to stand with us.
Yes.
And so we put out the SOS to save our stations. And we've asked as many as possible to give $1,000 this month to bring us forward, to keep us from going down under. And God's going to do it.
Amen.
God's going to save this whole network if everyone does something. So tomorrow we're going to have Donna and Allie back with us, and we're going to share some more about this book. I wanted to go through it. I wish I could read what's on it. It says, how the progression of media entertainment proves that mankind is headed for unspeakable travesty. This is what you learn in this book. The method by which the puppet masters controlling the public narrative manipulate and shape the masses worldwide. Wow. How society is being gradually groomed to embrace the unthinkable in preparing for the enforcement of the mark of the beast. All of this, I could go on for 10 minutes reading what's in this book. And it's like no other book, I want to tell you that. It's like no other book that I've ever offered. So I'd like you to read the book. Order it right now. What's the phone number, Lori?
Call us at 1-888-988-1588 or go to the website, jimbakkershow.com. You can write us at P.O. Box 7330, Branson, Missouri, 65615. And this book is a now book.
And anyone who could just give an offering of any kind, send an SOS to us, okay?
Yes.
Save our station.
Yes.
God loves you. He really does. Thank you, Donna and Allie, for being with us.
Thank you, guys.
See you tomorrow.
You're amazing. Love them.